see all of you here today. We are going to get started in about 2 minutes. So if those in the back could come forward and fill in the seats, we will be ready to get started. As you can tell by the tables in the back, we are planning to work together. Or in the words of Isaiah, we're going to reason together. There's a lot to be done, so if you can fill in, then we can get started. And I'm looking forward to a very terrific evening. So give us about a minute and we will get underway. Thank you. Please come forward.
Ladies and gentlemen, just one other piece of housekeeping. While the beginning remarks are being given, we will have someone walk around with index cards for you to write down questions. So we will take some brief questions and give some answers, but we ask that you write your questions down so that we can collect them, and then we will respond to some of your questions. Thank you. Sylvester, are you here? Okay, we will get the index cards out to you.
Good evening. So first of all, we've had, I would like to express thanks when you came in. I hope it felt a little bit different. We had the young people playing from the Chicken Bone Beach Foundation. We had a quartet, and they were fantastic. Come on now, let's clap it up for real. Let's show some encouragement. We all know the young people have a lot of options what they do, and when to get that sound and to work with those instruments, that takes time, that takes discipline, and it is good for us to show appreciation. We have a lot of young people like that, and part of the point of this event and this day and this work is to create more opportunity so more of our young people can show their stuff. I'm tempted to say, can I get an amen, but I won't. So let me tell you the run of show, and then we're going to start with the invocation. After the invocation, we will hear from a community voice. As many of you have attended town halls before, it typically starts with somebody who is in official position speaking at you for a while. In working with, my name by the way is Jim Johnson, and I'm special counsel to the governor, and I'm not going to speak at you for a while. But in working with the lieutenant governor, from whom you'll speak next, she's made it very clear that we want to hear community voices. We want to work in the neighborhoods. We want to hear what the people of Atlantic City have to say. So the first voice will be Libby Wills. After the invocation, she is a longtime Atlantic City resident, and she leads the First Ward Civic Association. Then you will hear from one of our youth, Tahini Muhammad, who will introduce the Lieutenant Governor. After the Lieutenant Governor speaks, we were going to provide time for questions, so look for those index cards. We are going to try to move through those quickly, and so the index cards, getting them, filling them out, and forwarding those questions are going to be important because we've got a lot of time to cover, and we don't want to waste time fumbling for questions because we won't be fumbling for answers, at least for the most part. And then we're going to move into a discussion section in which your voices are going to be the important voices. I want to do something right now. There are people from Atlantic City who are part of this effort. They had volunteered their times. I want them to just stand up so you can see the volunteers who are going to facilitate conversations. Just let's stand up and let's clap it up for them. We have a bunch there. All in, there are about 40 people from all across this city, from all 48 blocks and a handful from outside, who decided they were going to give up time on Friday afternoon. Some gave up time yesterday, some came early today, to learn what it would take to help us have conversations together. But first, Pastor, you want to open this up? Pastor McCoy, who's also chaplain in the Atlantic City Police Department.
The Bible says, if my people that are called by my name would humble themselves and pray, turn from their wicked ways and seek my face, then shall you hear from heaven. Then will I heal your land. It's healing time in Atlantic City. Let us pray. Father God, we thank you for this effort that is going forth. This town hall meeting, thank you for all those that labored to prepare. May we hear answers from you. Father God, allow every question, every situation to come to fruition, that we will be better from this meeting. Father God, we just thank you for our Lieutenant Governor. We thank you for our Mayor. We thank you for our City Council President. We thank you for all our councilmen and all of our city fathers and all of our leaders. Father God, allow us all to take our part and putting our hands to the plow and not looking back. Father God, we just thank you for the greatest city by the sea, the city of Atlantic City. And we'll be ever mindful to understand that you parted the waters and made it come up out the waters, the ground that we call this city, and take ownership for everything that goes on here. In your son's powerful name we pray, amen.
Hello everyone and welcome. It is great to see so many people here at this first town hall meeting, and I hope this will be one of many. As Jim said, my name is Libby Wills. I am the current chairperson of the First Ward Civic Association, which is part of the Civic Association of Atlantic City United, which includes not only the First Ward, but Bungalow Park, the West Side Neighborhood Protective Association, Venice Park, and the Chelsea Neighborhood Association. To our elected officials, I would say to you, we want you to work together for your constituents. We want you working together with all the stakeholders to make Atlantic City a safe, healthy, livable, and a great recreational place for the residents and the visitors. For our residents, we would like to see you report crime, and I'll say this, if you don't know it, ACPD tip 411. We would also ask you to help to keep your neighborhood clean. Additionally, we will be asking you to make phone calls, write letters, send emails, and sign petitions when help is needed with an issue. We think AC, Atlantic City, CRETA, along with its public and private partners, must become creative in its planning. They must devise an economic development strategy that reaches out to every sector of our city, which includes our neighborhoods, the aging, the disabled, and the young. They must create a plan with public input, which would show us where we should be in 3 to 5 years, and then from 5 to 10 years, with yearly revisions as needed. There is no reason why we should wait another 20 years to get vacant lots developed or the South Inlet developed. When things are done, and I will say this, there are so many plans sitting on the shelves right now. All we need to do is extract some of those plans and put them in force, all right? Changing our little part of the world requires all of us to work together as a team that is committed to achieve this vision. I hope that by your presence here today, you are ready to become part of that team. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Muhammad.
Good evening, everyone. I would first like to say that I am so grateful for being given this chance to speak on behalf of my peers in the community. To begin, I would like to give a few facts about myself and what I stand for. My name is Tahani Muhammad, and I am currently a sophomore at Atlantic City High School. As of today, I'm 16 years old. My GPA is a 4.2. Needless to say that Thank you. Needless to say that maintaining my grades is very important to me. I'm on the field hockey and lacrosse team, along with managing the girls' basketball team. Before coming here, I asked a lot of my classmates what they thought Atlantic City needed, and I received great feedback. I was asked to recommend places like a bowling alley, movie theater, a recreation center with a swimming pool, and even job prep classes. I believe that this is an opportunity for the officials to give the children what they need, what they want, but more so what they need. Even though it was exciting to hear what was wanted, it sparked my attentions to the one who said that they needed better paying jobs for their families, and most importantly, a place to call home. Based on statistics, there are at most 10,000 minorities in this city, and 1 of 3 of them live below the poverty line. Studies also show that most teenagers graduate and work in casinos instead of going to college. When you actually sit back and think of Atlantic City, the first thing that comes to mind are the bright lights and casino life, but nothing for the children. Not only are we an adult hotspot, but we have the highest rate for homelessness, mortality, and poverty. Growing up, I've watched million-dollar projects come in and out of Atlantic City, but now that I'm 16, I see that the only thing standing are the Boys and Girls Club and PAL building. But that is not enough. Yes, they are the only places keeping the faces of AC off the streets, but we need more. It is important for us to be heard because soon we will be adults, and honestly, most of us would love to sit in all the seats all of you are sitting in now, but we aren't given that chance. Like Jim Johnson stated in his report, there remains much potential that can only be realized if the children are given broader opportunities. We have the mindsets of surviving and beating the odds when we should be living in the moment and following our dreams. Instead, we stop reaching for our goals because we're stuck at home raising siblings for our parents. Not only is today my birthday, but it is also the day that I convince you all that we need a change. Our city really needs something, or even anything at this point. We are set to be your future, but that's impossible if we don't have the roads to success paid for us, like the casinos have paid for them. And now with that, I would like to introduce Lieutenant Governor Oliver.
Good evening, everyone. And Tahani, I cannot tell you how proud I am of you. And we're all here tonight to really address much of which Tahani has shared with you. And, as I was sitting there, all I could think of was that old refrain, out of the mouths of babes. But thank you so much, Tahani. Love you. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this Atlantic City Town Hall meeting. I cannot tell you how overjoyed all of us are from the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs and from the Office of the Governor in terms of how many of you have come out tonight to begin the process of rebuilding the community of Atlantic City. Libby, I want to thank you for the work that you do representing the First Ward Civic Association. You have definitely set the tone for the evening, and thank you so much, Libby. Also, I'd like to say that, Tahani, a 4.2 GPA. I think when we think about the promise, potential, and future of this town, it is young people like Tahani who can lead us forward and assume leadership in this community. I'd like to give a big thank to Jim Johnson. Now, we can give him as much applause as we can possibly exert. But many of you know that Jim and the Office of Atlantic City Initiatives, which is led by Mike Epps, and you'll be hearing from Mike this evening, but I want to thank them for all the work that they've done in organizing this town hall. I also want to thank all of the civic associations, the churches, the educational institutions, and the business stakeholders here. And a special shout out to Matt Dougherty. Matt has just recently been appointed to lead CREDA, and he has really, in the short period of time that he has been leading CREDA, demonstrated his commitment and the Casino Redevelopment Authority's commitment to work hand in hand with the entire community of Atlantic City to press forward. So Matt, I want to thank you for everything you've done. Positive things are happening in this city. This program tonight is the result of a lot of people working together toward the common goal of unleashing the potential that Atlantic City has. You know that one of the first things that Governor Murphy did, he authored an executive order creating the foundation for us to establish an Atlantic City project office with the full support of CREDA, but more importantly, the governor has established a cabinet-level interdepartmental entity that meets regularly. That means I meet together with the Commissioner of Health, the Commissioner of Education, the Homeland Security Commissioner. Every commissioner of every agency has come to the table on a monthly basis to meet with me as the Lieutenant Governor and DCA Commissioner to leverage the assets and resources that each department of our state government has to see what we can do to support and help move Atlantic City forward. We have to address the long-standing issues that have been made reference to: poverty and unemployment, public health, and affordable housing, just to name a few. This work can be daunting, but we have determined that we can collectively do it. Because we know that strength and results come from collaboration, by working together and taking one step at a time, the work will get done. And we will all be better off for it. You may have heard about Jim's Atlantic City Transition Report, and it was released in September. It is the report that is creating the framework by which we as state government will work with, together with the mayor, the municipal council, and all the stakeholders here in Atlantic City. Led by Jim Johnson, the review team went out into the Atlantic City community and met with people to learn about the issues that are important to them and the challenges that they face. We are grateful to the parents of young children in the Head Start program here in the city, municipal employees, the leaders of the Boys and Girls Club, and the Police Athletic League, members of Local 54, just to name a few. But Jim engaged in thoughtful conversations at every level, and our entire team, to find out what everyone in Atlantic City wanted. It's why we built the transition report as a structure, and the reason why we have retained a staff here in Atlantic City to help us get this work done. You've heard about the Executive Council. The executive order created the Executive Council. The Executive Council provides a place for the major stakeholders in the city to discuss the project that they've been working on, to find connections, and to build alliances to advance the initiatives that are identified in the transition report. The Coordinating Council ensures that all the state departments are engaged as well. We've created the Office of Atlantic City Initiatives. The mayor has graciously given us office space on the 7th floor of City Hall, and we have put together a staff that will be responsible for facilitating all of the work and all of the projects that we will be involved in. We will have on board the director of that office, Mike Epps. Tonight you will meet who will be coming on board is the Deputy Director, Rose Farias, and we are so pleased to have on board with us another young man who represents the future of this city, and that is in the guise of young Elijah Langford. Many of you have received a copy of the first quarterly report that we have issued, and if you have not had access to it, we'll get your contact information and provide you with that quarterly report, or we have established a website where you can access all information about what it is that we are doing. Now, we recognize the importance of planning and development in Atlantic City. And as we move forward, we have to make strategic, planned, and focused attention to how we undertake future development in Atlantic City. One of the things that I noted on my way down here, we didn't have much sun today. And as my car was approaching the convention center, I said, you know what? We've got to outreach to the Rutgers Cook College Horticultural School, because I'd like to see huge planters on all of Atlantic and Pacific Avenue. We can get those kinds of things done. I'd also like to acknowledge the new planning director that has come on board in the city, and she will be responsible for working with everyone in Atlantic City as we move forward with development, housing development, and just the aesthetic infrastructure things we want to undertake here in Atlantic City. Her name is Barbara Woolley Dillon, and she will immediately be getting to work developing a citywide master plan. She'll be working closely with the CREDA planning staff to advance planning initiatives. Many of you know that when the state legislature enacted the Municipal Revitalization and Stabilization Act, it required or called for the movement of the planning and zoning activities of the municipal government over to CREDA. Well, we have returned the planning and zoning functions and staff back to City Hall because we want one concerted effort by those responsible for planning and zoning to be operated and contained under one roof. I want to just point out to you that the Atlantic County Economic Alliance and CREDA have been leading in efforts to support a lot of projects coming forward. Ørsted, a leading wind energy company, now has an office in Atlantic City and is serious about developing a wind farm off of the city's coast. It has already performed a site survey and an analysis of available air and wind resources, and will be moving forward to help fulfill one of Governor Murphy's priorities, which is to make New Jersey a #1 energy creator through wind in the country. He has a plan for 3,500 megawatt development, and we're looking forward to Ørsted working with our state and with Atlantic City to make that happen. Atlanticare, I know you've read in the Atlantic City press, will develop a $38 million medical arts building on Ohio Avenue. The 165,000 square foot campus will include space for medical education, maternal, fetal medicine, and an urgent care center. It will also provide outpatient dialysis, psychiatric care, and an emphasis on addressing the issue of opioid addiction. Continent 8, a company that delivers internet technologies globally via a secure and reliable network, is now positioned in the Atlantic City Convention Center. This immediately makes the city an international player in online games and technologies, and is already paying dividends with the city hosting a major esports travel summit in June. 600 North Beach, a mixed-income rental housing community built by Boardwalk Development LLC, opened last year in the city's South Inlet section. It is the first market-rate housing development built in the city in decades, and it is a welcome addition for people who are looking to live in an amenity-rich environment near the beach in Atlantic City. These projects are in addition to the grand openings in the city this past fall of the new headquarters for South Jersey Gas and for Stockton University's Atlantic City campus. In fact, Stockton is already looking to expand its footprint in the city, having secured a New Jersey Economic Development Authority grant to study the feasibility of creating a Center for Marine and Environmental Science in Atlantic City. This economic development means high-quality, good-paying jobs for Atlantic City residents. I don't have to tell all of you here tonight that high unemployment has been a continuous challenge for Atlantic City. Some of you have personally lived it, and many others have seen family and friends go through periods where steady work was hard to come by. As we all know, high unemployment affects more than the individual worker and his or her family. It impacts the entire broader community. Therefore, a focus of our efforts must be on job training and recruitment of Atlantic City residents for high-wage work with growth potential. The quarterly report shows that progress has been made on this front. Hard Rock Hotel and Casino has joined with the Atlantic City Chamber of Commerce and Local 54 to establish a jobs training program for the city residents and graduates of the Atlantic County Recovery Corps. Aside from training people to work in the environmental and culinary industries, the program provides counseling, mentorship, and other wraparound services. Additionally, the Atlantic County Economic Alliance, thank you very much, Michael. Air conditioning is getting to my sinuses. The Economic Alliance is strategically looking ahead to the next generation of workers and working with the well-regarded Embry-Riddle Aeronautic University. And last week, Lauren Moore and his colleagues took me on a tour of that FAA Atlantic County facility, and we are going to commit to attract more innovative technology companies to provide the next generation of jobs for people in Atlantic City. It can't be overstated that this type of program gives young people the confidence that they can succeed, and it opens up their minds to future and potential career opportunities. Beyond the STEM and education and aviation programs, the DCA, the city, and school superintendent are working together to develop a strong, paid internship program this summer for the city's youth. The EDA, South Jersey Gas, CREDA, Hard Rock, Atlanticare, the FAA, Stockton, Borgata, AC DevCo, and the Atlantic City Arts Council are all participating in the effort because they understand that internships can develop talent and give young people the experience they need to thrive in a professional work environment. The final area that I'd like to address is that of public safety. The transition report recommended the creation of a Citizens Advisory Board to foster communication between the community and the Atlantic City Police Department, with representation between the different civic associations across the city, as well as representatives selected by the mayor and the municipal council. In November, the city council passed an ordinance creating the advisory board. Members have been appointed and taken the oath of office. The first meeting is expected to take place by early February. Some members of the advisory board are present this evening. I want to thank them for serving on this important body that will facilitate problem solving and help foster a strong relationship between the community and the police department. I'd also like to commend Police Chief Henry White and the entire police department for embracing the advisory board. We've made headway on a lot of community concerns and look forward to more progress. Atlantic City is no ordinary 39,000 person town. In addition to the people who live and work here, the city welcomes visitors on a daily basis, and sometimes the population can swell by the tens of thousands during the summer. The city and its police want to provide an environment in which residents and visitors alike feel safe to walk about the city's neighborhoods, business districts, and entertainment areas and enjoy what the city has to offer. The fact that violent crime and property crime have decreased in Atlantic City in recent years is encouraging news, and Governor Murphy and I thank the AC police officers and the community for contributing to this increase in public safety. Even with these successes, we're always looking to improve. Given the workload and efforts to be more proactive, the city and state are trying to make sensible budget choices that will enable more officers in neighborhoods to engage in community policing and to positively interact with the city's young people. We are working to ensure that the ranks of Atlantic City's uniformed officers reflect the city's diverse population. I commend Chief White and his team for recruiting diverse officers and more officers who live in the city of Atlantic City. In fact, since November 2016, approximately 2/3 of all Class II officers hired are of African American, Hispanic, or Asian descent, and nearly 60% are Atlantic City residents. Now, while progress has been made in a short period of time, we recognize that there is a lot more work to be done, especially with increasing diversity among the ranking officer level, the command staff. Together, we've accomplished this in a short period of time, and you're going to see more momentum as we focus on this area. I understand that tonight you will have an opportunity to write questions on index cards, and we will have a Q&A. I want you to feel comfortable to identify any issue whatsoever that you believe needs to be brought to the attention of those of us who have linked arms to collectively solve problems in the city. We are interested in hearing from business owners and institutional leaders and neighborhood residents, the educational community, all aspects of the Atlantic City community. We believe that we want to get Atlantic City right this time. I think back to 1976 when Governor Byrne, our late beloved governor, created the framework for gaming to come to Atlantic City. And, you know, we were the first, after Vegas, to move in this direction. But, you know, I am a lover of history, and history teaches us a lot of things. And one of the things that history has taught us in Atlantic City, that we must always have a parallel track. Business expansion, support of the gaming industry in this town, but none of it is important if we don't progressively move forward the lives of the families and the institutions that exist in the town. So that is what we want to get right this time. We believe that we are at an important juncture in Atlantic City's history. There are a lot of good things coming down the pike. I often say, wherever there is water, you are going to see success. What we want to commit to is working with all stakeholders and all of the people from all sectors of Atlantic City to make sure that we get this right as we sit on this historical jewel nestled against the backdrop of the Atlantic Ocean. And with that, I'm going to ask Michael Epps to come forward, the director of our Atlantic City Initiatives Project Office.
Lieutenant Governor, I'm actually out in the audience, and I have some questions, and I will deliver the questions from here, and then hopefully they'll be responded to that way, if that is okay. So the first question is, what is the plan for how the inlet will look, and will there be more for the youth?
Yes, absolutely. Those of you who have not had an opportunity to read Jim Johnson's transition report and some of the other documents that have been created, as Jim pointed out, in a population of 38, 39,000, 10,000 from that population are young people. And we certainly identified that there are a lack of developmental activities available to young people. So as we think about the South Inlet and what can be created to be of support to the development of young people, we're thinking also about the cultural life of this city and exposing young people to cultural activities. And we will be doing some exciting things in that regard.
Thank you. And as a housekeeping note, just for the public to know, we're not going to have enough time to take all of the questions that we have today, but the Initiatives Office is going to create an information page, and there will be a frequently asked questions section, and we will endeavor to answer within the next week or so each of the questions that are on these index cards, and we will provide those answers to you on that website, and that will be provided to you. So the purpose of this meeting is to get you an opportunity to speak in groups. So we're going to answer a few of your questions, and then hopefully we'll move you to groups so that you can engage in that discussion.
Thank you, Mike.
Next question. There's a need for more policing in the neighborhoods and on Atlantic Avenue. Any suggestions?
Well, I think that with Chief White and with the leadership of the Office of the Mayor and the Municipal Council, and certainly with us at the Department of Community Affairs, you know, we probably can collectively work on some deployment models to ensure that there is a presence of law enforcement in the neighborhoods. That really gets and speaks to the heart of how you deploy the officers that you have, and then the retention of the Class 2s that I made reference to. But we are aware that community policing is a top priority, and we will be working with Chief White along with that situation.
The next question, there's need for more youth programs and second chance opportunities. Can you discuss that?
Yes, we are looking at, and that is one of the reasons why we have the interdepartmental cabinet group within the administration to identify resources, assets, grants, and other kinds of support we can give to the nonprofit sector in Atlantic City. There are significant numbers of nonprofit youth services organizations, but one of their challenges has always been to get the kind of funding and the level of funding that they need. And so we'll be working with the Board of Education, some of the community-based entities, to broaden and expand the kinds of activities that are available for young people in the city.
Thank you. Next question. With 2 new buildings in the city, South Jersey Industries and Stockton University, do you know how many Atlantic City residents actually were employed at either of those establishments?
I do not, but I certainly can get that answer for you, and we will get that answer for you.
Thank you. The next question is, the state presently takes 100% of our luxury tax, room and parking tax, totaling approximately $90 million annually. The question is, why can't the state return all or part of that money or all of that revenue to pay toward public safety, schools, infrastructure, and reducing property taxes?
That's a good question, and I'm glad I'm no longer in the state legislature, because I will tell you, that is an issue for our state legislature. Our state legislature enacted those laws, the hotel tax and the luxury tax, and but what I do want to speak to is school funding. You know that one of Governor Murphy and Senate President Sweeney's priorities is fairer school funding for all districts. And many of us also recognize that while Atlantic City was not part of the original 31 school districts that benefited from special funding, we certainly recognize that increased state aid to Atlantic City schools is necessary. And I think what you will see in this coming up budget year and subsequent budget years, you are going to see increased funding for schools. And because when it comes down to property taxes, we know that school aid and the lack of additional state aid puts a heavier burden on the local property tax payers. So we are aware of that. But it's going to take the legislature and the administration to work collaboratively to move us where we need to get. But we certainly are aware of that. And we do know that New Jersey has some of the highest property taxes in the country. But one of the things we have to come to terms with as a state, we are very used to having a lot of services. And I tell people, if you travel around the country and you visit other states that have low property taxes, they may not have sidewalks, they may not have street lighting, and there are other things that their local municipal agencies do not provide. They don't have free sanitation and other kinds of things. But I think as New Jerseyans, we're going to have to come to terms with what services we feel we could go without, and what level of services should be municipally delivered. You know, there are broad discussions about shared services. We have 565 different municipalities in this state. Some of them are very, very small. There's a very small town in New Jersey with 1,500 residents, and every time I see the mayor of that town, he asks me, why do I have to pay for a school superintendent when none of the students in my town go to school in the town? Those are the kinds of issues that we're going to have to, step up and address and swallow. But I think the thing that makes us an anomaly among other states is that we are a home rule state. We need to really open our minds up to the concept of shared services and regional delivery of services. In the legislature, I represented Montclair and Glen Ridge. Glen Ridge decided, we are so small, Montclair shares a contiguous border, Glen Ridge has been contracting with Montclair to do its fire service for decades. And that's before shared services became a public conversation. But the things that were reiterated by that questioner, these are the things we're going to have to address in order to address the issue of property taxes in New Jersey and the size of government as well.
And just for clarification, I was asked the question out here if there would be any questions other than those from the index cards.
Does someone else have a question they'd like to ask? Yes? If you could come up closer, I could hear you. Because Boardwalk Hall's a cavernous place. Terry Tucker, who is my chief of staff, she's chief of staff to the Lieutenant Governor. I'm going to ask Terry to give you her card and let me arrange a meeting with you to learn more about the school and how it's going to be structured, and let me see how I think the state would be able to support the development of the school.
I appreciate that. Thank
You're
you
welcome.
I believe the question was development of a music school.
Yes.
And so there's going to be a conversation to see if that can happen.
Yes.
Steve Young, Atlantic City. Good afternoon.
Hi, Steve.
I'm here on behalf of a coalition of Black Men United to stand up about some issues and an agenda that have been put together by this coalition to bring about some solutions to the issues in Atlantic City. And the reason being, the state, the county, and also the casinos have had the opportunity to turn this city around with all the promises and all the millions of dollars and all the professionals. We're here today to say we have an agenda. We would like to meet with you so we can help carry out that agenda. And the reason why we're saying Black, because we've been affected more than anybody. And that's the truth. And besides that, with all the issues that's going on, charity starts at home first. We're usually the first ones on the front line when it comes to civil rights and everything else. And everybody else seems to be up front when it comes to implementation. This time, we would like to be included. So with that, we don't want to sit at the table. We want to set the table. And we want to be a part of that with you. And I would just like the Black Men United, if you're here, stand up. Some of them are here today. And it's good to see Black men stand up and get their community back. And I have that agenda, and I would like to hand it to you.
Very good, yes, and I am not adverse to working with your group. I am an old-time community organizer myself, and I understand the need to have grassroots development and grassroots creation of moving forward a change agenda. So I have no difficulty whatsoever meeting with Black Men United, listening to the agenda and some of the things that you have identified, and working collaboratively with you to push the envelope forward on those things. I have no problem with that at all.
Thank you very much. Lieutenant Governor, I think we can take two more questions.
Okay.
And then we're going to move back to the cards, and then we'll move the agenda forward.
Okay.
The next question is, can we do more to make casinos hire a higher percentage of Atlantic City residents?
I think that is why we developed the Atlantic City Executive Council, so that we can work with the casinos towards that goal of the employment of more Atlantic City residents. And we want to delve into, with the casinos, if they don't have significant numbers of Atlantic City residents working within them. We want to hear some reasons why. Are there impediments? What has been the difficulty? Is it recruitment? Is it outreach? I think that is why, for instance, we're having this town hall tonight, and that is also why we have the Atlantic City Executive Council. I know that I've been doing a lot of work since June with Hard Rock, and they are totally committed to making certain that more Atlantic City residents have the opportunity for jobs. But I also want to tell you something that is my particular interest, and I know that the industry needs jobs filled at all levels. But I am interested in cultivating and creating an environment here so that residents can successfully enter the industry and move up the ranks of executive management within the casinos. I think you know that at Stockton, Stockton has worked with us so well, and they've created something called the AC Solution Center. Issues like that, we will be calling upon the research expertise and the data collection expertise of administrators and faculty at Stockton and Rutgers and other higher ed institutions across the state to help us delve into those statistics and to make certain. I think that, you know, you can enter the industry, you know, in hospitality and, you know, in culinary and those kinds of things. But I think one of the things that has been missing is seeing diversity and the representation of the diversity of Atlantic City within the management ranks of the hotels.
So again, a little housekeeping. We will take we will present 2 more questions, then we'll take a brief break. We'll explain the process, is what I meant, of how we're going to break out. And then as we go to the breakout sessions, you'll have entertainment from the youth group again, and then we'll get you set up at tables and we'll start the roundtable discussions.
Okay.
The question is, will there be any plans to tear down blight on Pacific Avenue, particularly between Tropicana and Boardwalk Hall?
Well, I can't speak specifically between Tropicana and Boardwalk Hall, but what I can say to you that we have as a priority the aesthetics of all of the corridors and streets and neighborhoods in Atlantic City. And one of the things we know we have to move towards is making Atlantic City an aesthetically pleasing place for residents and for visitors and for people who work in the town. So my response would be yes. We do want to address the issue of blight. We do want to address the issue of vacant and abandoned property in Atlantic City. And we want to also address the issue of nuisance locations in Atlantic City.
The last question is there a path for return to civil service, and what is that time frame if it exists?
That is going to be the decision of the state legislature. The MISRA law is a law enacted by the former governor. The law was passed by both the Assembly and the Senate. Myself and members of the Black Caucus in the state legislature, we did not vote for nor support the MISRA. But if we see at the end of this period, and the law was a 5-year period, it will be the legislature that will have to restore civil service to Atlantic City. I have had discussion with the Senate President about this issue, and while we're not prepared to see legislation come forward this year, I think if we can demonstrate that we have made some progress on a number of different fronts, that we have been good fiscal stewards of the municipal budget, perhaps we will get there. But I think that we will get there, but I can't tell you it's in the year 2019. Okay. Thank you.
And really, again, thanks to the Lieutenant Governor. Her leadership has been tremendous, and it has been steady, and you can see that she marries a big brain and a big heart. So thank you again. And one of the themes that the Lieutenant Governor touched on was collaboration. In a second, we're going to go into conversations with each other in key issue areas, because as the Lieutenant Governor has mentioned, we're committed not only to, we developed a strategy and we started to do some things, but we need to develop an implementation plan. And it is our goal to actually have an implementation plan for everyone to see by March 12th. But we're not going to have a plan that is really a plan that has community input unless we actually have community input, which is why we're going to have conversations with consequence, and we're going to try to do it collaborative. And when we're talking about collaborative, there are also people in this room that I would like to shout out before we move into the next phase. We have within this room elected officials that have worked closely with us. The lights are hard here, but the mayor is here over to my left, and he is actually going to address us after the working group sessions. The city council president is here, and I've seen several council members in the room with us. They have all been working with us to move this forward. In addition to members of the council and the mayor, there are members of the executive council that the lieutenant governor mentioned, representing Atlantic Care, Stockton, several of the casinos, the civic associations. They are all in this room together with us, and they volunteer their time as well, and I believe that they, like the electeds, deserve a round of applause. Conversations with consequence. This is what we're about to start. There is a thinker and a scholar and an activist who said that when change is imposed on people, they experience it as violence. When change is imposed on people, they experience it as violence. When change is brought about with people, they experience it as justice. And from the moment that I was given this task, the lieutenant governor has made it very clear, and the governor has made it very clear, that that is our goal. And it's hard to pull a lot of different pieces together and still try to be collaborative and still make sure that we have input. So we're going to try something that's a little bit different. It hasn't been done here in Atlantic City before, at least not at this level with this many people, but I think we can do it. What we're going to do, I asked earlier on that we had about 40 people stand up as facilitators. There are important issues to carry forward. They were reflected in the questions. People are concerned about blight and land use, and we want your ideas on that. People are concerned about opportunities for children, and we want your ideas on that. Because we want to build an implementation plan that is not something that's dropped down from Trenton or anywhere else, but actually reflects what we hear from you and what we hear from you today. And not just today, because we want this to be a living document. So we're going to create a website where you can send us information and your ideas and keep the conversation going. And we're going to ask you at the end of this process to join with us. Just like your neighbors and friends who came forward and are joining together to facilitate conversations, we need you to join with us. We don't want anybody saying, well, we've got a plan and we're going to impose it. Our goal is to have this be the community's plan, all of the community. We want to hear all voices. So, you will forgive me, I grew up with a particular song which I will not sing. It's called Lift Every Voice and Sing. And one of the first line is lift every voice and sing. And when we sit down in these conversations, we want to make sure that every person has a voice and every voice gets to be heard. And so there are going to be guidelines that I will give you, and the facilitators will revisit those guidelines, and we're going to have to organize ourselves because we're set up to have maybe 200 or so people comfortably sitting around these tables. We're probably not going to have enough seats at the table or even the back of the table for all the people who want to participate. We may end up sending some more groups, so we're going to be calling some audibles. That's why we'll need the music to get ourselves set up. But these are going to be the discussion guidelines. And before that, because you've been listening a while, we want to actually start a conversation. So I want to turn to the person you want to turn to the person to the left of you or the right of you and say this. Neighbor, oh neighbor. Now I've been in Atlantic City for a while, and y'all can generate more enthusiasm than that. So turn to the person to the left, to the right, and say, neighbor, oh neighbor. I will work to understand you. Marty, you didn't say that loud. I could barely see your lips move. All right. Now I want you to turn again to the other person that you didn't speak to. Say, neighbor, oh neighbor. I will help you understand me. When we got to the me, everybody got loud. What's that about? I don't know. So now how do we do that? How do we make sure that every person has a voice and every voice gets heard? I'm going to go through some guidelines. We need to follow these guidelines. Part of the reason we need to follow these guidelines is that we actually want to keep it real. When I say that, you will see what I'm talking about in a second. So guideline 1, every person has a voice and every voice should be heard. There are some bright lines. No one should talk for more than 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. That's it. This is not a time for speechifying. You want to use your ears as much as your mouth, probably your ears more often. No judging, blaming, or shaming. Now, I've had many conversations in Atlantic City. And I won't say that no judging, no blaming, no shaming will be a hard rule for people to follow, but I just say again, no judging, blaming, or shaming. Second, we want you to speak from an individual perspective. Own what you know. You don't have to speak, you shouldn't speak for everybody else. You're an expert in your own life and your experience, and I'll give you a concrete example. So, I might say, as an African-American man, I have had more than a few uncomfortable experiences, we'll call them, with police officers. I can speak about my own experience as my experience, but I can't generalize. I shouldn't generalize in this conversation to everyone else's. Bring your own game. But on the other hand, as a person who used to be in law enforcement, I was one of the first people to respond to, senior federal people to respond to the murders in Columbine, when those children were killed in the school in Colorado. And I can talk to you about the own trauma that I felt in responding to that. But I'm not here, and we all shouldn't be here, to talk about all of the experience of all of law enforcement in the world. Just from your own perspective. And having spoken to so many of you, your perspectives are rich, they are keen, they are wise, and they are treasures. Now we get to some of the difficult things. As I said, we want to keep the conversations real. We do not have in the list of subject areas, which I will go so you can choose tables, we haven't talked about, we don't highlight race and the issues of race and discrimination. But if we're having a conversation about jobs and opportunity, somebody may want to say something about discrimination. Do you feel me? And if they do, they may not use the right words. They may not say it just the way it's going to be said. But I am asking you at this moment, if we're talking about something that's hard, that you as a listener be generous. People will make mistakes. I trained 2 groups in the last 2 days, and in each of the groups, I had to say, oops, because I said something sideways that it wasn't exactly what I meant, but that's the way it came out. But before I said oops, somebody in the group said ouch. All right? They said, like, wait a second. Well, this actually one person said more than ouch. But this is important. These are words where we can just say, if somebody says something that strikes you the wrong way, our facilitators are trained to actually explore that with you, so you don't have to do the job of like correcting and going upside somebody's head or anything else to set them straight. We're designing a process to try to get there. So if somebody says something that strikes you hard and hurts you in a certain way, and I'll just give you one example. From time to time, particularly when I was younger, people would say something like, well, Jim, you're so articulate. For some of us in this room, when you hear that, you also hear, well, is the expectation that I wasn't going to be able to put my words together? Is that expectation because I happen to be an African American? All right? Sometimes people will say things thinking it is a good thing, and it's not. All right, let's be generous with the spirit to try to understand that we are going to make mistakes in these conversations. But our goal is to try to develop solutions. James Baldwin said, you're not going to fix a problem unless you face the problem. We're not going to address some of these hard issues, and it could be we're in a multi-ethnic town. And if what I've heard sometimes from Southeast Asians in this town is that it hasn't quite yet opened to them, we need to open to each other if we're going to move forward. And this process is designed to do that. Last thing is many voices, one conversation. If you're in a group and you just can't wait to say your thing, you may turn to somebody next to you, but then you're distracting the rest of the group and you're disrespecting the other people in the group. And we're going to try to respect each other. We're going to try to learn from each other. We're going to try to be real with each other, but allow for people to make mistakes. Allow for people to learn from their oopses, not just penalize them, so that we can stay engaged and work these problems. Because we've done a lot. You look at the report, you can see that a lot has been accomplished, but you look outside, you also know that a lot has to be done. And we need to do it together. So with that, the other thing is after you finish, we want to have 3 ideas from each group with an implementation plan. I'm going to go through the groups. We'll start the music, and we will organize ourselves around the issues. So there's going to be 3 groups on economic development. Group 1 is small business, getting started and building one that lasts. Group 2, and the tables have numbers on them as well as place cards that say what their issues are. Basically, you go from my left to my right. So basically from the door to the window, 1 through 18, and I'll run through them quickly. Economic development, those are tables 1, 2, and 3. Small business, getting started and building one that lasts. Group 2, attracting new entrepreneurs, the pitfalls and promise of new business in Atlantic City. Group 3 is anchor institutions, hope for new neighbors. Then the next is jobs and job training. We have 2 groups on that. One is linking people to opportunity, and that's group 4. Group 5, preparing young people for the 21st century economy. While we're bringing in jobs to the city, we want to create pathways to employment for everyone. On public safety, there are 2 groups. One is neighborhood policing, hopes for the officer in the community. The second is partnership. How do we strengthen alliances between police and service organizations? So on public safety, those are tables 6 and 7. Next is public health. If you've read the report, you know that public health is a very important issue for Atlantic City. And we have 3 tables on public health. The first is table number 8, ideas for improving infant and maternal health. The second is table number 9, tackling obesity and poor nutrition. And we did mention this, but we're committed to bringing a supermarket to Atlantic City, and CRETA has designated funds to help us do that. Group 10, table 10, addiction as a public health problem. Then we're moving to, and the Lieutenant Governor addressed the vision of the city, dealing with blight, creating affordable housing. We have several tables on that. Group 11, table 11, that will be building a 21st century vision for Atlantic City, including amenities for the way we live now. And we heard young Ms. Muhammad talk about what was needed to make life more vibrant, more fulfilling, and more promising for our young people. That table, Group 11, will be talking about those sorts of issues. Group 12, Table 12, is affordable housing in neighborhoods in which all families can thrive. And then we're moving on to our youth. And one of the things that we heard when we were doing this work was that the youth of Atlantic City are the invisible citizens. We also heard that the youth of Atlantic City are the forgotten citizens. We want to put that to rest. Every single time that we come together, if we're not asking about the youth, then we're not fully doing our jobs. Every time we do, and we start to develop programs, we're putting a nail in the coffin of the idea that the youth are forgotten. No more, no more. So there are going to be two groups discussing that. One is after-school opportunities for children that build a foundation. That is Table 13. Table 14, again 14, partnerships with large and small businesses to create experiences for youth, opportunities for youth. Next, when we met with government employees and the directors of departments, one of the things that they raised was the idea that they wanted to do their jobs better and they wanted more training to do that. So Rutgers has agreed to provide certified public manager training certification for the department directors and others in City Hall. But as we're shaping, and that's supposed to get started on March 12th, as we're shaping that program for them, we need to have your ideas as citizens about what's important to you. So there's a table on getting it done in Atlantic City, running a business and working with City Hall, and the other is on city services. Building vital communities in Atlantic City, service delivery across all 48 blocks. Table 15 is the table on getting it done at City Hall, that's 15. Table 16 is all about building vital communities, service delivery on all 48 city blocks. And then moving on to arts and culture, you heard the quartet from Chicken Bone Beach Foundation today. You're going to hear them again. There is so much talent in this city that needs opportunity. So much talent. And so we're not treating arts and culture as something that is addition to and separate and apart from developing business. It's part of the soul of this city. If you listen to people talk about KY on the curb or anything else, you know that it goes back and it's rich and it's deep, and we need to do what we can to support it. So Table 17 will be about building community pride and developing and showcasing community talent. That's Table 17. And then Table 18 will be building bridges across generations. And with that, we're going to turn it over to Mike and then over to the band and over to our facilitators. And after people sit for a while, we'll have a pretty good sense of who needs other tables, and we will improvise. We'll do our own little bit of jazz and get organized to have conversations, even if we can't fit at tables.
Okay, if you can be still for just 1 second, Jim said as we were planning this thing, this is going to be the part where we play musical chairs. So what we're going to ask you is, if you're sitting at a table and that's not the table where you want to participate in the discussion, we'll ask that you stand up and find the table that fits what your desire is for tonight. We're asking everybody up front to find those tables that interest them. Not yet. Find the table that interests you, and the band will play. But just as a note, we have some individuals from the state departments, the cabinet departments. They're here with us, and we're going to ask them to float around into the discussion areas that fit their office, where they might lend some knowledge and input to that group. Secondly, the City of Atlantic City has a resource table that is up here at the front, so if there's something that you might think that you can get directly from the City of Atlantic City, a question answered or something of that nature, there's a resource table at the front. That table also has some pamphlets concerning health issues and some pamphlets for some instructions with respect to licensing and in the casino industry. So we've got a lot of information for you, so see the resource table, make your way to the tables, and we now invite Chicken Bone Beach to play for us for a little while as we get ourselves assembled, and let's have a good discussion.
I truly feel like because a lot of times Latino communities or immigrant communities are undocumented, that there's a bigger sense of mistrust with any interaction with law enforcement. And so I think a good way to combat that is to have like obviously more friendly, community walks or police initiatives where we target, Chelsea neighborhood.
When we think about that, so we think about Serena, she's all the way up here. What do you feel that we can do in the community?
Done before I joined anybody.
My dad was in the National Guard. He retired for
God
27
bless.
years.
And I fully, what I like about the American Legion is because they believe in all veterans, whether they went to war or not. I think if you serve, that's all you should need to be able to get in.
And most of those shops closed like during winter time.
Yes.
Most of them are closed in the Boardwalk.
I don't think that would be necessary if they would plan it right.
Right. Well, I think they're good ideas for how you do new things with the boardwalk.
I do too. Thank you.
I think what Jeff talked about is sort of the diversity of the city being a strength. I 100% agree. I think that we are an incredibly culturally rich place with an incredibly rich history as well. Sort of leaning into that is really important as we move forward.
Older police officers were not keen on community policing, but as the younger ones came in and they learned how to deal with the community, they were much better than the old timers, because the old timers really did not want to be part of community policing, and I don't know if that's what the experience here in Atlantic City is.
We had an opportunity for our folks to be heard, and we want you to all hear what some of the feedback was from your neighbors. So with that, I would ask the reporter from table 1 to come give us your report.
Hey man, I'm still walking, brother. Still good. Yourself, you all right? I'm Carl. How's she feeling?
Hi everybody. I'm Carol Hartman from Boardwalk Realty and Ocean Club Realty, both of them located on the Boardwalk. And table 1 was small business, and this is what the 3 things we came up with. 1 was infrastructure, that's a must. Also, permitting and licensing. I can speak on that just a little bit because we do rentals and sales in 2 of the buildings on the Boardwalk here, which is Ocean Club and the Ritz condominiums. It takes a lot of time, which I believe with technology could really cut down for the city and for us. Every time a unit becomes vacant, whether it's a month somebody's lived there or whether it's a year or 5 years, there has to be a bed bug inspection, and there has to be what's called the certificate of occupancy. Both are very necessary. I totally agree with them. The issue is one of my agents have to get in the car and go to City Hall and turn this paperwork in. And with today's technology, I really believe there should be a system that they could be sent in digitally. Okay? Other than that, big thing was holiday on the Boardwalk. The Boardwalk just rolls up the boards all winter long. Businesses close. That's people they hire, employees. They could maybe keep these businesses open if there were something to draw people. There's nothing. There was nary, not a bit of decorations for the holidays. And I believe that would be very important. People want to come here just not to gamble. The business people want people to come here just not to gamble. The businesses on the Boardwalk and in the city as a whole, that would help them a lot. Thank you very much. I hope we have a lot of success.
Number 2.
She didn't give me a chart. Table 2, attracting entrepreneurs. The first thing that we admitted and agreed is that we needed people, dreamers, people with vision, people with delusions of grandeur. That's what the entrepreneurial spirit is. Sitting at the table, there were a few people who have never really had a job. They've always been self-employed. And one of the things that became important to them was the support system. Atlantic City has a way of not supporting those who want to come to town if they're a small guy. So we realized that it was very important, because this town was built by dreamers, and it was very important that we continue that, because the big guys will thrive if the small guys thrive. So we take it from there to how do you finance it? One of the things that we've been pushing for a while is something called the AC Corp. Now, let's use an example. We all know Shark Tank. Why doesn't Atlantic City stream its own Shark Tank and take technological ideas, stand behind a product, and then use crowdfunding or GoFundMe sources for these ideas? If you create the place people want to watch, you create the place people want to visit. One of the mistakes we have made in town is designing a town. We know how to design a carnival, and the town fills in around it. And we've lost our carnival spirit. Sitting next to me earlier, the guy talked about the local promoters and this and that. The key being, the small entrepreneur builds the big. The big does not build the small. They can be benevolent to the small, but they're not in charge of building the small. We're in charge of building them. You have to attract the young guy. You have to put together dream tanks. You have to put together idea fields, things that they have at Penn, at university, different schools that we've all seen. I'm going to shut up before I go off on a tangent. Thank you.
Group number 3.
Oh my goodness. Anybody want to buy a little brother? Okay. Hi, my name is Diane Epps, and I was the facilitator for Table 3, but I'm also the reporter for Table 3. We were tasked with Anchor Institution's Hope for New Neighbors. The first, it said, how would you like to be able to buy clothing and other goods for your home and family? And the group came up with having suitable retail space and resources, and also coming up with ways to simplify the process for getting permits for new businesses to be established. So, such as small boutiques, we know we have the stores and the national retailers in the walk, but we also need to bring back the smaller boutiques and the smaller shops and find a process to streamline getting permits, renovating spaces for the small businesses. We also talked about the redevelopment of North Side businesses. If anybody that's as young as I am remembers growing up in Atlantic City, and there were vibrant businesses on the North Side. Our second question was, what other types of businesses anchor a downtown that are missing from the Atlantic City marketplace? And we came up with several. Aviation, i.e. the wind power that was discussed, the offshore wind power, which is blue energy, environmental and marine sciences, non-gaming hospitality, that we need to develop that as anchor institutions in downtown. The third thing we came up was, how do we drive traffic to our main concourses? Oops, I'm sorry, I went to the wrong thing. Yeah, that is our question. But we looked at, another thing we came up with is to leverage the economic impact of the existing institutions or stakeholders to generate revenues, bring in skilled workers and residents to diversify our base here in Atlantic City. So I have no cards and I have who is at our table.
There you go. Table number 4.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to be short and sweet. Table number 4 was job and job training. The first issue we was encountering, or the community is encountering, is connecting resources with the community. So it's appeared that Local 54, the Union Local 54 have a lot of job training, and also Stockton in Atlantic City, but no outreach. They have it in the website. They go out there and have job fair, but the community don't show up. And that leads us to the second one, that is having a multilingual outreach. Because just not the city, but the whole county is diverse. So we have so many languages out there, and that barrier are stopping our citizens for getting the job training. So that would be number 2. Number 3 is breaking other barriers to don't allow our citizens or our Atlantic County job seekers to get to those job trainings. And those are child care, transportation, and others. So a lot of parents cannot afford that one, and it's not available. It's not easy. It's expensive. And for our youth programs, they need transportation. They don't have a job, they don't have money. So to get to those training, they need to have that transportation available. Thank you. And I'm Celeste Fernandez. I'm sorry.
So I'm not trying to rush reporters, but we want to get you out of here. We're probably going to go a little bit over. We're trying to get out by at least 8:10, but we're going to ask you to kind of speed up your report out, and we will post everybody's report out on our website or where we have information. So we do want to hear from everybody, though. So table number 5.
Table 5, we were discussing preparing young people for the 21st century economy. Don't worry, I'm going to condense it, but as you can see, there was a lot of ideas. I'm just going to give you the greatest hits. Under education, we had magnet programs with the high schools on emerging industries that provide marketable credentials with employment opportunities. For example, paramedics, EMTs, medical assistants, Cisco Academy, getting them into coding, and provide more emphasis on connecting our youth with scholarships opportunities for trade schools, colleges, universities, military academies. Under mentorship, we had expand opportunities to have programming after school. Right now we have a supply and demand issue with young people in Atlantic City. Most of the organizations, like the one I work for, Boys and Girls Club, even running at full capacity, we can't even come close to the amount of youth that are in the city, as far as all of our youth having a connection to after-school activities. But then having those after-school activities connected with our local industry, business and professional, with real internships, co-ops, and apprenticeship programs in those industries. And then under skills, teaching skills to prepare for future jobs, and what we call soft skills training. So teaching our youth how to prepare for a job interview, how to fill out a job application, how to open a bank account, how to write a check, and things like that. And then partnering with local organizations who can provide skills training and unique skills training to the industries in our area through different, again, apprenticeship programs.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Amber Hamlet, and our group did community policing. So the 3 things that we came up with were training for officers on diversity, as well as cultural training, so that they understand the communities in which they're entering. The second thing we came up with was to hire more officers. There's a lack of manpower needed to address the needs here in Atlantic City. And our third thing was to build relationships within the communities through the school system, neighborhoods, and getting to know all the players. So business owners, different organizations, youth, school systems, understanding and building relationships within the community.
Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Brian Little. I'm with the Boys and Girls Club of Atlantic City. And we had public safety, police, and community relations. Partnerships, strengthening alliances with police and community organizations. The three solutions that we came up with was for the police to work with the civic associations to create substations in the various communities to allow a couple officers and 2 police with bikes that have quicker response times to some of the instances and situations that go on throughout our city. Number 2 was to create community police teams that work in partnership with these communities, whether it be a basketball game, sporting activities, Sovereign Avenue, the soccer fields, etc., to just create these teams to build stronger relationships in the community with these neighborhoods and these youth and parents so that you can have a better relationship with the students and the families and the communities. And third, create more Orange Loop projects in some of these more daunting neighborhoods that have some of the struggles with drugs, crimes, violence, etc., and to create more of these Orange Loop projects in the neighborhoods that are struggling. One of the things that I've heard recently is that Ocean Avenue, where the Orange Loop project, is taking place and currently has decrease some of the crime and some of the things that go on in that neighborhood just because they created that project. If we create more of those type of projects throughout the city, that will secure more of our residents and allow for a safer city for everybody. Thank you.
That was 7. Group number 8.
Hi, my name is Fred Bernice. Our topic was improving infant and maternal health. One of the things we came up with is the doula program. I'm sure that you may not know this or may know it. It's where young women mentor pregnant young women through their pregnancy to give them information on their health and well-being. We don't have a program in Atlantic City. The county has 2 people for the whole county. We should start a program in Atlantic City to mentor women who are pregnant. Also, to reinstate the health department in Atlantic City, but structure it differently. Open it up as a keep well station. Back in the 50s and 60s, we had this in this very building on Pacific Avenue, where all health issues can be addressed, especially issues that are pressing to young women and young men. The third thing we came up with was education. Education at the school level, at the grade school level, about their bodies, about children boys and girls, to learn their bodies at an early age. So when they get to the age when they have matured, that they would know what's going on with their bodies, so they'll be able to handle it. Having the Keep Well station also would have information about churches and resources for women to address their issues. And the Keep Well station is multifaceted. It could be food, vitamins, nurses, doctors come there on a prescribed basis. And it's really a great thing. We used to have it. Why we don't have it now, and we have it decentralized. When we had a health department, we decentralized and we do outreaches, which you don't touch very many people. That's it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Regina Curry. I'm the Senior Nurse Clinician for Unite Here Health. Atlantic City. Our subject was about obesity and nutrition. One thing I want to say is hunger is a big issue in Atlantic City as well as obesity. I think I have a lot more hungry people than I do obese right now. The first thing that we came up with was good habits at a young age, doing programs for the youth. Number two, tapping into the resources that we already have in Atlantic City, like the casinos. We have a wealth of chefs and dietitians, celebrity chefs, and great cooks. If we could do things that like workshops, and everybody wants a better supermarket in Atlantic City, we know that, but also not driving away the little corner stores. Having a program where you'd have a special meal of the week that could be the chefs and cooks could help us do at, you know, the local stores, and people would come because everybody likes free samples, right? Also, tapping into the resources of the local culinary arts schools that we have and that they're growing in Atlantic City as well, to teach people about proper nutrition, to teach people how to get a little bit longer with the less money, get better food. That's what they really need. And then also do more education about the programs that are already in place. We have a WIC program, we have a farmer's market WIC program for the senior citizens, and also maybe tapping into how we can level set that so that in the wintertime, when it's so barren, you know, where do people go? We have a lot of senior citizen or, you know, older folks that live by themselves. It's very difficult to have a proper meal with, you know, and to purchase food for a proper meal without wasting a lot of food. And we can't waste a lot of food. So people depend on things like oodles of noodles and packaged foods and things like that. So I just wanted to keep in mind that the nutrition, an obese person is malnourished, and a very skinny person who's hungry is malnourished as well. Thank you.
Hi, I'm table number 10. I'm Mike, a proud Atlantic City resident and case manager for people living with HIV in Atlantic City, of which there are many. We dealt with addiction, which is a very difficult topic to talk about briefly, but I think I can cover the broad strokes and get you the main points, which are never easy in this topic. It's a terrible curse, addiction. We are having a plague in this country, the likes of which we've never seen, which can make it very difficult, very, very thorny to try and talk about untangling that with the people that we care about in our city. We all feel that same, I think, angst about drug tourism, the idea of people bringing behaviors here that we don't want. And I can vouch that our table had diverse viewpoints, but we can all come to these same agreements. First of all, that we know who we want to prioritize for, no matter whether or not we want to lean in or out of the incredible talents of the many service providers in this city. We all know that the kids born here, that our residents deserve the absolute prioritization of what we can do. We cannot export them to another town, and they are suffering from this epidemic just like the rest of us. We need to prioritize that. Institutions like the Boys and Girls Club cannot be enough of. We cannot have enough of them. We talked a lot in our second point about the need for positivity in terms of looking at the light side of somebody before we have to focus on the dark, to building those incredible behavioral paradigms that absolutely can be brought to fruition in this city. We could have another 10 or 20 clubs like Indra's Princess Inc. or our beloved Boys and Girls Club Covenant House, and it wouldn't be enough, and each one would be worth every minute of work that's put into it. Focusing also on the positive, we discussed the need for there always to be opportunity parallel to the services that are being provided, and we don't think you can address the addiction of one particular community, the residents of Atlantic City who are born and lived here, without addressing the discrepancies in their economic opportunities. I think this is something everyone can agree on, and I think the science is very much behind us, that the more training, the more support, the more positive influences there are in the city, the more likely we are to keep people out of the shadows that are only growing when we turn our backs on them. And we came to our third point of talking about our habitat overall. It can be easy when we're talking about addiction, I think, to dismiss matters of the aesthetic, for example, but it means something. It means something for people's human worth to be able to see that they live in a city that values even just planting a garden, even just giving kids chances to be able to see that even side by side with those who are still struggling to get out of very dark places, diseases that completely transform their behavior, there are still beautiful things out there for all of us to aspire towards, to prevent people from falling into the cycle that we're trying to break. Thank you.
Really quickly, this information and the reports are going to go up on the website. Right now, this information is housed at www.nj.gov/DCA/. Ultimately, the Initiatives Office will have a webpage. Right now, we're still with, as part of the DCA webpage, so that's where you can find that information. Group number 11.
Okay, my name is Carol Ruffio, and I'm with the Chelsea Neighborhood Association. And we were under land use and planning, and Part A was building a 21st century vision for Atlantic City, including amenities for the way we like to live. Well, under this category also said, what would make Atlantic City more likable and walkable? What makes you proud about your neighborhood? And what makes life in the neighborhood more difficult? Our group have found more difficulties than describing ways to describe a great day with your family and where do you tell visitors to go. So what we came up with, which is some things that have been already mentioned from other groups. Number one is the streets. The streets are the biggest problem in every neighborhood in Atlantic City. The streets flood. The streets need paving, the sidewalks are in disrepair, and there have been beautification projects done in neighborhoods in Atlantic City, but they were never maintained, and they're all looking seedy now, and the lighting, there are some parts of the street, or the city where we have changed out to new lighting, but there are a lot of dark problems in dark neighborhoods. The next thing is, the cleanliness of the city is atrocious. And the cleanliness not only which is the responsibility of the city to clean, but for private homeowners to clean. And if you're in an area where there's a lot of rentals, it seems that the rentals don't have the same pride in their property, so they're not cleaning, and the landlords aren't taking care of it either. So the challenge is, who do you contact to get help in your neighborhood to educate your neighbors of why they're supposed to clean up their properties? Also, Atlantic Avenue, a lot of money has been spent on Atlantic City with streetscaping and new facades and all this to do, but people don't want to go and shop there. The shops are not maintained, they're seedy looking, and most people that are residents of this city don't want to walk Atlantic Avenue to shop. And it all comes back to code enforcement. And code enforcement is not doing or not able to do their job. Maybe they're understaffed or what the reason is, but there's no enforcement of laws that we already have on the books. And people aren't held accountable to do snow removal and clean up and keep the city looking beautiful. And so before we can move forward to put in new, like Lieutenant Governor said, driving into the city, that we should have, flowers and vases, and who's going to maintain them and how long are they going to last before they have damage and left to sit there on their own. So the biggest thing here is just code enforcement and getting the streets, paved, the sidewalks fixed, and the flood the flood mitigation, especially up in the first ward, is really bad now. Thank you.
I was told I had to speak because the facilitator was not allowed to, which clearly is not the case. So forgive me, I'm nervous. All right, so we dealt with affordable housing and how to have thriving families in the community. The two questions that we just got to was what are our favorite places in the city and what are the places to avoid and what to look for. A lot of people talked about Chelsea, Bungalow Park, Meadows Park. These are neighborhoods that have implemented some nice group watches, neighborhood watches, which has helped with the public safety issue. Gardner's Basin was brought up as kind of an untapped gem in Atlantic City that we would like to see its full potential realized. It could be so much more than it is. We'd like to see that become what it really could be, like a Baltimore Inner Harbor type thing. A lot of people said that they liked the diverse neighborhoods. You know, they were very proud to live in diverse neighborhoods, and they thought diversity was a strength. I agree. Some of the things that we said were negatives were, of course, the property taxes. It's very expensive to buy property here, to own property here. Big complaint was that there was not a major supermarket here. You know, people that want to live here, they would like to have some place in the town to go shopping. And home ownership is kind of a lot lower than it should be. You know, we felt that if more people actually owned homes versus renting, it actually works out cheaper than a lot of the market rate rentals. And, you know, when people own their homes, you know, it tends to be more pride, it tends to build a community up. As far as places to avoid, I mean, the public safety issues, you know, the Save-A-Lot came up, you know, there's a liquor store there, you know, there's kind of a negative element there. Obvious things, so, you know, just increase public safety and just trying to get the perception out there that Atlantic City is a safe place to come, visit, to work, to play. That's pretty much it.
Table 13.
I'm Lisa Seymour. Table 13 was developing pathways to success for our kids through after-school programming. I'm just going to get right to the 5 things that we identified that need to be implemented, beginning with whatever programming is developed needs to offer trauma-informed counseling and care. It needs to offer coping skills to our kids, because it's great if you can get kids jobs and things like that, but they need to know if there's a problem on the job, how to deal with it. We're talking about emotional regulation and those sorts of things. We felt it was very important to poll or survey our kids to see what activities they think they'd like to have in their communities, because there's no sense us developing if it's not something the kids are going to like and want to come to. We need to look at Title I funding a little bit more strongly. There needs to be development of summer job programming and internships. And whatever programming we develop needs to have support around those programs, talking about transportation, meals, homework help, and things like that. So we developed 5 things that need to be implemented.
Table, what are we at, 12? 14. I'm waving you. 14, thank you. I don't want to go home.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tim Jones. Our topic at our table was youth and business. Many of the topics that were discussed by many of the other tables, of course, would apply to us. We discussed many ideas that would benefit the youth of our community by providing opportunities to engage the business community, small and big community, and to give the youth of Atlantic City an opportunity to see what it's like in this world in terms of potentials for different jobs and things like that. It's very important to be able to paint that vision for our young people. One of the interesting ideas that came out on our table was taking a sliver of one of the resources like the luxury tax, something like that, and applying it to programs to develop career development for the youth of our community. We also talked about the need to address the underlying issues in our community. There's a lot difficulties that the children in our community have to deal with that may take their focus away from being able to transition into a work environment and automatically be successful at it. There needs to be resources for that. There needs to be resources for job readiness training. There needs to be resources for using career assessment tools. One of the persons at our table mentioned a project that Stockton University conducted over several years. Every year providing a needs assessment of the youth in our community. These things need to be incorporated and utilized so that our children can see themselves having a place in this community. Thank you. And 15.
Hi there, good evening everyone. My name is Vanessa O'Brien McMasters. I'm with Atlantic Cape Community College. Our team is focused on government performance, and a majority of the folks who were at our table were public employees and public servants of Atlantic City, dedicated for decades to serving the city, and really gave some good perspective in terms of professional development needs, as well as ways to improve services for the city. The top four, I'd say, issues that came up, the first in terms of customer service needs or active listening skills, being able to convey a sense of empathy and respect for individuals and the needs that they bring. That's both for employees as well as for the citizens of Atlantic City, as well as for interdepartment. So the respect of the work that happens throughout the city and the employees that do that. The second piece would be about morale within city government, including advancement for educational opportunities and tuition reimbursement, both at the local community college as well as local colleges and universities, and also to be able to encourage leadership opportunities for both men and women and for succession planning. There's a vast knowledge of skill and knowledge at the city level in both management and leadership positions and on your frontline staff. So to be able to acknowledge the good work and to instill a sense of value for public service that will make the city and continue to make the city to challenge the perception of the services that are delivered. That's it.
15, 16, 16, 16.
Good evening, I'm Sherwood Taylor from Atlantic Cape Community College. Table 16 focused on building vital communities across the 48 blocks in Atlantic City. I actually had one person at my table, but her voice is going to be heard. She recommended, and we're recommending, that more people are available to clean the streets, and that some type of creative funding is done to provide those folks for that, to help keep the streets clean, and also to hold store owners accountable and responsible for their storefronts and for being more of an active member in the community.
17.
Yes. Hey, how's everybody? Good evening. We combined 17 and 18. We are Atlantic City Arts and Culture. So pretty much our table was a lot of artists, a lot of people who specifically have cultural events in Atlantic City, and we had a big shot from CRDA, and from us coming together, we realized that the number one thing that we needed in the city to help the arts and the culture is a centralized arts center. We need a place where it's a community performing arts center or just an office of culture and arts. We need a place where we can cultivate the young talent, where we can have events for the seniors, where we can just bring all of our different cultures in Atlantic City together, where, occasionally we might even have some of these A-list celebrities who are in our city coming through and giving us some of the jewels that they grab to help them maneuver and, make it in their craft. Another thing was we need funding. We need funding for arts marketing program. We need to push it out to the masses. There's a lot of stuff in the city that a lot of people just don't know about. Like we have Arts Garage, we have Dante Hall, we have Boardwalk Hall, we have Kennedy Plaza, we have pretty much everyone in Atlantic City can be a place where we can do something that is, for the arts and for the culture. And we need a program in place. We need a funded program in place where we can showcase the talent of everybody, where we might have prizes, where we might have a beach concert at the end of the summer, where we can have mural arts on different walls. Now, 48 Blocks, I want to shout out 48 Blocks. They did that this year with their 2-day event where they did certain walls in Atlantic City. You guys can see that when you go out. We need boardwalk performances. We just need to bring a way where we could bring all of our cultures together and just promote our underground artists and also tackle and bring some of our A-list celebrities, with us so we could just make the arts program a great place for the youth, the millennials, and the seniors. Thank you, guys.
So those were the report outs for the 18 tables. And next we're going to have some reflections on those reports from Mayor Frank Gilliam, and then Jim Johnson will close us out. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. This is probably one of the most important as well as one of the most refreshing meetings that probably the city has had in some time. And you can take credit for that because the input didn't come from government, it came from the public. So give yourself a hand for that. At this time, I would also like to thank the hard work that Jim Johnson has done, the commitment that the LG has given to the city, and this new endeavor that Mike Epps has taken upon, because again, as we were sitting here listening to all the things that was basically displayed, what we do realize is that we have a multitude of talent in this city. We don't really have to go outside of our 48 blocks to solve our problems and our issues. We just have to begin to be open enough to listen and talk and compromise with each other. And this is one of the ways that I think that our city will show the globe that we are a jewel and not the slum that everyone portrays us as. Rather, it's the community talking about bringing the city into the 21st century. We had discussions of bringing in CityStat, which will allow the community to basically go on their computer and basically make claims and basically do the day-to-day business like any other 21st century city does. We talked about the arts and cultures and the center that allows the culture to come together and display the ultimate talents that we have, and having a partner with 48 Blocks. We talked about every aspect of the city that if we do sit down and honestly be open to each other like we were today and implement these things, that your ideas are very much a part of this process. I have no doubt, whether it's me or whomever else is standing in this seat, we can make a real impact and show the world that Atlantic City is truly a mecca of talented, real, compassionate people. And I'll leave on this. Mahatma Gandhi said, "Be the change that you want to see in the world." This is our opportunity to be the change that we want to show in Atlantic City. And because we are here as a unified front, this is the beginning of some very, very great and productive things, and I'm looking forward to being a part of it. And you are the central aspect of this. And this is probably, again, something that I have never seen in the city of Atlantic City in quite some time. Folks coming together, airing out the improvements and differences without leaving the room heated at each other. And for that, this is a great start, and we're looking forward to this program being fruitful in the future. Thank you.
This is the last time you'll hear from me tonight, I promise. But one thing I just wanted to point out, Jim indicated that our office has Elijah and Rosa, and that's our team. But that's not our team. We have 3 people in our office, but we have 39,000 people that are on our team, and that's you. So you guys are our team. We're going to work with you. We're going to be your conduit. We're going to do what you want done. We're going to put this together as an implementation plan, but that's not the end of your role. We're going to continue to stay engaged with you so that we're doing what you want done, and you're helping us do that, because we can't do that by ourselves, and not government can't do it by themselves. We need all of you to participate, and we walk this walk together. So I look forward to this endeavor. I look forward to your help. I thank Jim Johnson for his report and his guidance that he's given me as I start on this path. I thank the mayor, and let's get started.
Thank you so much, Mike and Mr. Mayor, and all of you who have stayed here. We have been here a very long time by most lights, right? We started at 5 o'clock. The facilitators started at 4:30. It has been 4 hours, and we're still going. That's commitment right there, and that's tremendous, and you should clap it up for yourself right there. Really quickly, Einstein said, if you do something the same way and you expect a different result, that's insanity. There are no insane people in this room, as far as I can tell. And instead, we decided we would do something different. We did something that's a very different format, and you saw the results. And that we were going to keep doing things in a different way. We will probably have in the project office a sign that says, we've always done it this way, with a red circle and an X in it. Because we have to have a whole different game. I was asked to do this for 45 days a year ago. And what happened when Braxton Plummer couldn't make it down here, and I started after the first 3 weeks, pretty shortly on, we started to fall in love with the city. And we were seeing things in the city that many people weren't seeing, and definitely things that weren't being talked about in the press, either in the state or in the nation when they were talking about Atlantic City. It was always starting with something that's wrong with it instead of starting with something that is strong about it. And it's something that's really strong. And even the people of this city need to have a new narrative in their head. And I think the start of that, the continuation of that, is here. We wanted to have the meeting today because for too many decades, a lot of people came from out of town and made promises. And they said they were going to do stuff. They wrote a report. Then they were gone. We decided that we were going to build in place a system that had accountability in it. We had a report in September. People wanted to have a town hall meeting. We wanted to have a town hall meeting after we had done things, after we had commitments to build a supermarket, after we'd established a citizens advisory board for policing, after we put together mechanisms at the state level to deliver services and provide insight in problems that are hard for the city. And after the team led by Rob Long had done its work as well to start to move things forward. Then we felt we could come to the city and say, well, yeah, there are things that we want to do with you, but there are things we've already done. So it's worth you investing your time because we are moving forward. But we also want to do things, and we'll continue to do things, to shine a light on the best of Atlantic City. You know, one of my hobbies is to be a photographer. And one of the things I found is that as a photographer, you can often take almost anyone, in fact anyone, and find something beautiful in that person and let it shine out. And sometimes you could talk to somebody for days and weeks and hours and rap to them forever and talk about how beautiful they are. They never believe it. But then you hold a mirror or a picture up to them that is beautiful. You hold up a mirror in the right way, and they see themselves in it, and you shut up. And they see what you're talking about. Today, we wanted to hold a mirror up and let you see the city as we've seen it. This town is beautiful. This town has talent enough, with allies that are coming from around the state, and we've been talking to people around the country who want to help, to really move things forward. It will take all of us. Everyone, more than 100 people stayed. We didn't expect more than 150 people. We have 100 people who stayed for 3 hours. You are part of the team. You may be the core of the team. Recruit others. We're going to move forward. Beautiful. Together. Thank you so much for your time.